Hello everyone, it's me, Coffee Stitcher. It's the Sunday after Valentine's Day, so I hope those who celebrated it enjoyed their celebrations, and those who didn't enjoyed their Friday. My coffee is very cold today. It's actually not all that great. But I'm doing my Golden Girls mug again. How was everybody's week? Awesome, that's really good to hear. So this week we've got Q&A, we've got lots of whip updates, we have a finish, a new start, I don't know why I'm doing this, but I am, and then plans for next week. So, I guess without further ado, let's dive on in. There's no haul this week, but there will be notes on that. So no haul this week, but that happens. Fortnite Fabrics, Fabric of the Month should be shipping out this week. I know my nest egg will be here Tuesday, according to my shipping notice. And then Tuesday as well, I took a day off because I have a lot of PTO days that I have to take or lose. So I took Tuesday off as well, and may end up going to Stitch Niche. We'll see. So yes, so let's get started, and let's get it started in here. Boy. Alright, so Q&A. Badoop boop badoodle. Susan Houghton asks, have you finished Octopus's Garden? What sort of color changes did you make? It's high on my start list, but I haven't kitted it yet. I'm not sure if you're meaning Atlantis by Al Forrest Embroidery, which, no, I have not finished. I actually kind of got a little bored of it, so it went away for a little while. Or if you mean Octopus's Garden, the Blackbird Designs pattern, which I finished a good couple of years ago now. My finish is there. I don't have my finish. I took it to Stitch Niche, and it's currently a shop model. So I don't have it. I do know I did make some color changes. I know for sure Forest Glade replaced Tin Bucket for leaves, and Brethren Blue for the waves. But beyond that, I don't remember. It's been long enough now, I'm sorry. Philip Hoskins has a good question. He said, so I'm not sure sure this is where I was supposed to do this, but I wanted to request a video explaining the orientation of how to stitch on linen. I feel like I can turn it in multiple directions and the holes line up differently, but not sure what is technically correct or whether or not either way is the exact same or not. Does this make any sense? The answer is actually yes. The first thing you want to do with your linen is count in both ways. You take an inch, and you count the number of holes, because what you want to do is make sure that you've got the same stitch count going one way that you do the other. On your hand-dyed fabrics that you get from hand dyers, your ones you get from Witchell, the ones you get from Picture This Plus, the ones you get from Zweigert, those are all going to be uniform. They're not going to be weird. If you're looking at store brands, like the Loops and Threads or whatever the Joann's one is, that's where you can run into some weirdness, especially on your linens. And I'm seeing a lot of posts about that recently, where someone will have what's supposed to be 32 count, and one way it's 32 count, and the other way it's 36 count, which wildly throws everything off. So that's the first thing I would do, especially if it's not a hand-dyed fabric. The next thing you do want to do with your hand-dyeds, generally it's not a problem. Your hand-dyed fabric will shrink, but when it shrinks, so do your holes per inch. So while it may be 32 that you've got, it may actually end up being closer to 35, which can affect your stitch count. Usually it works in your favor. It doesn't expand. So it's not like you're going to go from a 28 to a 25 count. It's going to go the other direction. But a lot of times that can help, especially if you're not sure if a piece is going to fit, is to measure your holes per inch, or HPI. in terms of which way to orient, there really isn't one. Some fabrics have a clear front side, back side. I don't have any of them handy right now. Primarily, especially your printed fabrics from like Fabric Flare. That vintage country mocha, which is so popular, is one side only. And sometimes your side will depend on, like, it'll be dyed on the front, but it doesn't always go all the way through the back quite as evenly. So sometimes you may have a piece that's super mottled on one side, but not quite so much on the other, and you can use whichever side you need. So I don't know if that answers your question. I hope it does. If not, please ask further questions, and I will do my best to clarify. Stitching in sequins. Which Golden Girl am I? I'm a mixture of Dorothy and Rose. Because I am very salty. As some people will tell you, in fact, I had numerous instances this week where people just said, I can't with you anymore. You're just being too salty right now. But I do veer into the ridiculous a lot, which is definitely Rose. Black Ribbon Crochet Studio. I totally can understand why someone wouldn't want to stitch people because of the lack of diversity. I will say, though, I have discussed, at least doing my one skin conversion, it really wasn't as scary or as intimidating as I thought it would be. So I'm definitely going to be looking more into where I can potentially convert people as best I can. And really, I think designer-wise, the only one that might prove to be really tough would be Brooks Books, and that's because she's got like 14 colors in one face. So that one might be one I'm a little leery of attempting. But otherwise, I think it seems simple enough that there's no point not to do it, making things more diverse. So, a story I will tell. A good friend of mine has a child who's about 5 and is at a goes to a day school so that she can work, and the school just did Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and the teacher, and it's like they're young kids, and this one little girl who was black wanted to be Snow White, and a couple of kids said, but her skin is white as snow, you can't be Snow White. And they didn't mean it maliciously, like there was no like that. At least this is as it's imparted to me. So this is secondhand knowledge, I guess. So the way I understood, at least, there was no malicious intent from the kids. It was just the statement of fact. And so the teacher, to teach them a lesson in diversity and inclusivity, said, no, she can be Snow White. All you have to, because her hair can be white as snow. And so they just changed the little line and made it work. And I thought that was really awesome. And a great way to teach little kids how, it doesn't matter. But yeah, so there we go. And now I'm a little sad that I'd already stitched Snow White on mine, so I couldn't do that. But there we go. Manny S. says, any plans to design more patterns or start a sal of your own? And the answer is no. No. I did not enjoy doing that enough to keep doing it. My shop is still there. If anybody likes any of the designs, they can still buy them. I make like one sale every like 4 or 5 months, maybe. But I just did not enjoy that enough to continue doing that. Michelle Fisher, that is a handy design guide for skin tones. For those that don't know it, Lord Libidon, and she linked it in her comment below in my last video, has a skin tone DMC conversion color that shows you highlight, shadow, and mid-tone. 3, and then it also offers ones when you just need 2 colors. So, highly recommend that one. Let's see. Hello to Frank. I just actually saw this comment, or I probably would have responded. Apparently, and I am embarrassed that I didn't know this. Apparently, there's Spanish Floss Tube, so apparently I need to go watch that. But I'm glad you're watching the videos, and yeah, so hello. Sarah Contento asks, where did you get your modern folk embroidery pattern? The answer is Modern Folk Embroidery. That's the designer's name. And I think the website is modernfolkembroidery.com. Definitely, if you search Modern Folk Embroidery, it's the first one that pops up. But that's where I got it from. And the first two parts obviously are out. He did a freebie for Valentine's Day. I didn't download it because while it was pretty, it wasn't something I probably would have ever stitched. And I'm really trying not to just download things for the sake of downloading them. Let's see, Adam Dunn asks, are there other floss tubers you watch? You're the only one I know about. Do you follow Cross Stitch on Reddit? Have you seen the new Alice in Wonderland stitch along from Cross Stitcher magazine? And have you stitched on wood? So, first answer, are there other floss tubers you watch? Yes. I'm not the greatest at keeping up with FlossTube, largely because I don't get a whole lot of time to. I do watch Married with Stitches, or Married in Stitches, because they're hysterical. And I watch Park Hopper Bart. I watch Julicious when she does an update. I watch The Crafty Curator. I tend to skew more towards the ones that are shorter, because I generally don't, when they get over 30, 35 minutes, a lot of the times then I'm having to split it across multiple evenings, and then I forget that I need to watch it, or finish watching it. So I tend to skew a little more towards the shorter ones. But I do tend, and if I watch them, a lot of times it's on Sunday afternoons. Let's see. Do I follow Cross Stitch on Reddit? The answer is no. Reddit largely intimidates me. And I know that's probably very silly, but Reddit and Tumblr both really intimidate me, so I don't really tend to do much. But I do know there is a Cross Stitch Reddit. That's really about all I know about it. I have seen the new Alice in Wonderland style from Cross Stitcher. I think it's very intricate. It's not what I'm likely to do. I think it looks great. Bravo to anyone doing it, but it's not really my cuppa. Obviously, if it was Wizard of Oz, I would be all over that. But that's a whole other thing. But yes, I have seen it, and it is looking really cool from the people that I've seen doing it. I just don't have any interest in stitching it. And I have not stitched on wood. I've seen... There are some kits out there that are small, like, wood that you can stitch on. And I've seen some pieces... Pieces? Whew, apparently I'm Carol Channing all of a sudden. And I've seen some people who finished things on wood, but I've never done it myself. Largely because the things that that are already ready to go on wood are really small, and I don't tend to do things that small. Deborah Rodriguez asks, have you ever thought about a Hawk Run Hollow piece, like the Village projects? Those are a lot more dense and a lot more full coverage than I enjoy doing. There's a lot of blocks of massive, like, solid fill of color, and I just don't enjoy doing that. So I think they're pretty. I think I like them, but they're not my speed stitching wise. Ooh, hang on, I gotta slide this so I can... Oh. I guess that was... I don't know if that got all of them. I hope it did. Oh, no, here we go. I thought there were more questions than that. Okay, Covered in Cat Hair said, asks, do you happen to know if there are any differences design-wise between With the Needle 1 and With the Needle 2? I was looking at the design the other day, and I'm not understanding why there are two different ones. So, Lila Studio, and I don't actually know specifically why she chose to do another, to go in and revise it. But instead of it being a triptych, there's 4 of them. I do believe it's a larger piece, because the original was done on 32, the second one was done on 40. So instead of being 3 images, it's 4. The first one, or the one of the house of the family, she changed the flowers a little, but it's basically the same. The next one over, the one that I'm currently working on with the sheep and the cows, she added 2 ducks and some other things to it, and redesigned the barn a little bit. The third one, the lighthouse with the boat, that basically stayed the same as well. And then she continued it further with a new one that's got a few more rows of houses and another boat and a mermaid and some such. She redid the flowers. There's 2 alphabets now. And a place for your name. So she did mostly expansion work to it. But there's sort of the stand on top of each other picture. So if you go to her Instagram, she stacks the 2 on top of each other so you can see them. But I had already bought and started 1 when 2 came out. So I will not be doing 2. Kathy West, good ass, says, I'm stitching on a project that calls for a petite treasure braid. I'm cutting shorter lengths that's still having problems. Could I add a strand of DMC? Any suggestions? The answer, I would not add a strand of DMC to it. Michelle Sunflower suggested a thread conditioner. I would also recommend that. Larger-eyed needles will help. A lot of the times I'll use a 26 instead of a 28 for them. But really, it's the thread conditioning is really probably the best thing you can do if you're struggling with it. I don't tend to have a lot of problem with metallic. Where I generally run into my problems is if I'm using one of the holographic ones and it starts to unravel on me. But that's my personal recommendation. Nelia, I like the idea that that's a mausoleum on Nevermore. I'll remember that. I like that idea. Alright, so that takes us to the end of the Q&A. Lots of good Q&A this week, guys. As always, drop me more, because I love this stuff. Alright, so, next up, let's see. Is the homework. So, last week's homework, the first thing I worked on, well, actually, no, I guess the first thing I should say I actually worked on homework assignment number 2, which was whip closest to a finish. So Sunday, I got the stitching itself done, and then Monday, I did the back stitch. So City Mouse and Country Mouse is done. There we are. Let's take a moment to appreciate it. Isn't it pretty? This is on 28 count natural raw gingham from Weeks Dye Works. The pattern again is by Veronica and Ginger from her fairy tale. What is it? Fables and Fairy Tales to Cross Stitch. Word of advice, anyone doing a Veronica and Ginger, backstitch as you go, because even though it's not a lot of backstitch, and it's not even a lot of detailed backstitch, your colors are so close together in some instances that it just would have been a lot easier to do it as I went. So, there we go. And it's also a piece that looks much better when you're at a distance. I mean, not that it's not pretty up front, but the details stand out better at a distance. So, it is finished, and I enjoyed it immensely. Alright. Then I went back and started the homework over in proper. So I did task 2 first, because I just wanted it to be done. So, assignment number 1 was a luminescent dream floating against the sea of darkness. So you had to pick a width that fit that. So I worked on Nevermore from Prairie Schooler. And I got 257 stitches in on it. And I got a bat and the 2 stars. And the 2 stars, I think, they're either grits or parchment from Weeks Dye Works. But there they are. So I've still got 2 more bats to do to meet my goal for the month. So we will hopefully get those done here somewhat soonish. Alright. So that was assignment number 1. I saw assignment number 2. Assignment number 3 was to stitch on a face. And that was the one I had to do penalty stitches on because I didn't have anything close. Anything with a face that was close to where I could work on it. There we go. Alright, so I worked on Modern Folk Embroidery. I got 349 stitches in, and I got this nice pink heart done. So today I'm going to be working on it, and I'm going to work on the purple section here. So you'll get to see purple this time. So I'm almost done with part 2, so I should finish that today. Right. Set you up there because I'm going to take you back to the living room with me. Alright, the next one was to do a project that reminded me of my father and why. And I split it between 2 projects. So I did, first I was doing Strawberry Fields Forever, because my dad grew strawberries when I was a kid. And I got 50 stitches in on it, so I got 1 row of windows done and I started on another row. But that finished up the thread, and I did that while I was at lunch that day. But then that night, everybody's book arrived, so we started Beauty and the Beast by Veronica and Ginger. And it has roses in it, and my dad also was like was a huge gardener, like loved to garden. We won Yard of the Month a couple of times, and he had huge rose bushes, so that was how I tied it there. So I got a little start in. I didn't get very far. I think this is the top. So this is on Fortnite Fabrics 18 count Aida. And that is basically the outline of the beast's head. So I'll definitely be working on that one this week, I'm sure. Alright. And I got 152 stitches in on that. And the next piece was a funeral, stitch a piece with 3 or more humans in it. So I was doing with the needle. And 283 stitches later, I met my goal for the month. So the grass and the sky were both done. That was my monthly goal on it. So there we go. I actually had a slight counting error, but you can't really tell, so I'm just going to go with it. There we go. So next month the plan is going to be the trees and probably the sun and the cloud, but we'll see. Definitely the trees, because I know that can be accomplished. Alright. Then, I did my last bonus, or stitching extra credit. We had to work on a piece that had a bird in it. So I did, and it was 300 stitches, so I did, and I met my goal. I got 2 motifs done on Summer Patchwork, so I added the ladybug and the little hearts down there. So we've got, I'm 2/3 of the way through. I've got, essentially, I think it was 6 motifs left. Alright, and then yesterday, I worked on Jack's Halloween Dream from Frosted Pumpkin. And I got almost, I'm probably about 2/3 of the way done with my corner that I'm working on this month. So here's sort of the close-up. I've got the spider web in the corner to do. I've got the metallic, I'll do that at the end. I've got one candy wrapper here, and then I've got the word boo there. So I think the next, probably one more good, like, Saturday or Sunday working on it, and this will be done. Or that goal will be met. Alright. So this week we're supposed to do 1,000 stitches on a piece that we absolutely love, or pieces. So I'm going to start with Leslie Tier's Wizard of Oz, since I have 2 days off this week. I actually think I might, I don't think there's a full 1,000 stitches left in it. It's close, but I don't think there's a full 1,000. So I'll start with this one and then finish up with whatever's left. So, yeah. There we are. So that's what I will be working on starting tomorrow. As I said, today I'm going to work on modern folk embroidery. And then, goal-wise, for the rest of the month, I've still got, let's see, the next part of Three Musketeers comes out on Saturday, so I'll be working on that for sure Saturday. So I've still got part 2 of Three Musketeers. I wanted to get a page finish on Stitch Niche, part 2 of Pride and Prejudice, a page finish on Lost, or Paradise Lost, the bats on Nevermore, and then I don't know how far I want to try and get on the Veronica and Ginger. But otherwise, I've hit, well, finished the top right corner on Jack's Halloween. So I'm still doing pretty good. We're about halfway through the month. So I've got about half of them done. Like I said, I should finish Modern Folk Embroideries part 2 today. Yeah, so we'll go from there. Alright, so I think that's it for me today. I hope everyone has a terrific week, and I will see you all next time.